So I'm on the BJJ Fanatics website, and I see 3 new videos by some guy named Thomas Radzinski. You familiar with that guy at all?
Nope, absolutely not.
No? Well, he's got some good stuff. Three brand new videos. They're getting amazing reviews, which is good to see as well. But you got to tell us about them real quick?
Yeah, I had, you guys already know, but I had opportunity to go to Boston, shoot 3 more instructionals, 1 on butterfly hook, complete guide for butterfly hook, 2 wrap, lapel, and submit them, and 3 we have taking the back. It's particularly designed for guys for over 40 because there's no climbing involved. All the back takes are on the ground. Very, very full and effective system. So dip into it. I'm really hoping that this is going to help your jiu-jitsu and really take it to the next level.
BJJfanatics.com. Just search ROZDZ. We have all had that situation where after class is when we want to ask a question. And Thomas, a lot of those questions you've already answered, right, at Ask a Black Belt.
Yeah, it's another podcast that I'm running. It's on podcast, all podcast platforms, plus on YouTube. You can find it anywhere. Just search for my name. Search for Ask a Black Belt. At this point, over 100 episodes, different questions, jiu-jitsu, life-related, but something that everybody comes across, and often these questions sink in our mind, but we don't ask for whatever reason. So if that benefits you, go there, listen. It actually might help your jiu-jitsu, might help your life as well. And if you have any questions, find me on Instagram and drop me a line. I'll be happy to answer your question and mention your name during the episode.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we are live. So first things first, welcome to the Raw Radio for the second time, but this time as a host.
Yes, I'm taking Gary's job.
Are you stressed out?
Yes.
Like the countdown was going, and I heard your heartbeat all the way across the room.
Yeah, this is nerve-wracking.
This is a new territory for you.
I'm learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Oh, that's like, you should try the jiu-jitsu stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to carry it over. I'm trying to take all the lessons from that mat and put them over here.
So what's the lesson one you learned in the last hour and a half?
That I have a hard time sitting still. Keep on moving.
Is it like your ADHD is kicking in full?
I was fidgeting with my hands. I was moving back and forth. I was looking at you, and you're just sitting there. I was like, "Is my screen frozen?" No, it's not. You're sitting there like a statue. I shouldn't do it.
Well, did you enjoy it? That's number one.
Yeah. Oh no. He was a great guy.
First of all, if you didn't listen to actual episode, it's 198 with Gabriel Sousa, right? So it's phenomenal competitor. But I think what we learned, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm curious what you think, but what a positive, oh my God, what a positive attitude and outlook on life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You never know. Again, when you do these podcasts, you never know what you know the person as a competitor, or you know them from jiu-jitsu, but you don't know them personally, right? So you never know what you're going to get. And his positive outlook and positive mindset on life was just pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Gary and I, we talked about this a number of times, is like the perception that we have of an individual looking through the lens of social media, life, their professional competition career, or whatever, however you're following them, whatever the source is. Sometimes it's very different once you get into this personal side of it. Once they open up about life and their story and how they have achieved what they have achieved, you're starting to learn who they really are.
Yeah, and he came across as a guy who does not take anything for granted. He was willing to work hard. He, again, as you mentioned in the podcast, he likes to just dive into those deep waters, put himself in those uncomfortable positions, because that's going to be the fastest outcome to growth.
So what was your number one takeaway? What's your number one thought that you kind of grasp out of the conversation?
Well, the thing that stuck out to me the most is when we were talking about, he made a comment in there where he says, the tournaments don't really matter. Like he seemed to measure his success on his ability to help his family and his friends, to give back. And that seems like that was something that really stuck out to me, is he's proud about his ability to be able to help others, and give back to his family and his community. Like, that's my takeaway. And I thought that was awesome.
Why do you think that's so important to him particularly? But like, why do you think community and family? Why is that so important to us as humans?
Well, to him in particular, it seems to kind of stem from growing up underprivileged, and he probably had received. He talked about being a part of a social project. He was able to do jujitsu as part of like a social project, and so he was probably the recipient of, like he said, when he was coming up trying to scrounge up the money for the tournaments, he was selling raffles. He relied on the donations of others to help. And so he knows how hard it is. And he was a recipient of other people's generosity. I think that's what he enjoys.
But a human nature would be, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of people would say, well, screw that. I've worked hard. I've done what I've done. I don't need to help anybody else, and like it'd be in a very selfish way. Yet, particularly in his case, that's not the case. He's extremely return the favor, pay forward, not even pay backwards, but pay forward for other people, right?
Yeah, it seems like that. And I think that just speaks to his character. I think he finds joy in helping others and giving back. And again, he doesn't take he doesn't take it for granted what he received when he was coming up, and he wants to do the same for others. He was, talking about like just being able to pay someone's $30 registration fee, and that is a moment that brings joy to him. Something that I guess most people would just kind of like overlook, and that's what stands out in his mind about, he's measuring that as his, I've achieved it. I've become successful, that I'm able to do this. I'm able to help other individuals go to these tournaments. I'm helping them travel. I'm able to give money back to my family. I'm helping pay my sister's rent. I'm, things of that nature. And it's not about like, oh, I won this tournament. Oh, I beat this guy. I won this belt. I'm able to help others.
How do you gauge your success?
I don't have any successes.
Oh my God. You're very modest. I mean, this episode was at the highest rating and it just tanked. Just like Titanic. Just went straight down.
I mean, I guess what you're able to do for, what I'm able to do for my family, or what I've been able to do for them, for my family and provide for them, is something that I'm proud of. Because I guess I think it's every parent or every person's kind of goal is to be able to provide better for their family than what they were provided, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think most people don't want their kids' lives to be harder than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I was able to do that, I think, I guess that's how I measure my success, and that makes me happy.
So you are successful.
It's relative.
It is. I mean, it absolutely is. Absolutely. I mean, for some people, they might be grinding their entire life and they'll say they are very successful, and others they are lazy, or opposite vice versa, right? I mean, it is very relative to what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, I once scored 4 touchdowns in my high school football game. I mean, I guess I could measure it.
That was like 3 decades ago.
But no, yeah. I mean, I guess I guess yeah. That would be how I measure it, is the fact that I'm able to provide a better life for my family than what I had. Not that mine was bad or anything like that. My mom was able to provide a better life for me than what she had. Hopefully that trend continues.
Why do we want to have our kids better than what we had?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It says like I want my kids' life to be harder than mine. And we all want our kids to face adversity, and we want them to grow up disciplined and stuff like that. But I don't know. I've met someone who actually says like, "Oh, I want my kid to."
Is it because we want them to be stronger than us?
Yeah, well, that's probably where the fine line is, right? We want them to be stronger than us, but we also want them to be happier.
Or is it maybe that we don't want them to make the same mistakes that we have made?
Well, that kind of goes back to what he was saying, and when he was talking about, like that old analogy: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. He's talking about, like he wish he could have learned from the mistakes of others, but you have to go through it yourself.
You have to go through it yourself. Yeah. And that's the hard part behind all of this, is even like, I often pivot these lessons to the jiu-jitsu, these episodes to jiu-jitsu related. Is like we can tell our students what to do, how to do it, but truly our job is to guide them through the experience, and they have to be hands-on with it. They have to fail. They have to get tapped out. They have to get smashed. They have to experience the passing. They have to experience the submission on both ends, executing and being submitted, because all that gives us the experience of learning. And from there, we can draw our own conclusions, and we can guide this path of jiu-jitsu journey to what we want it to be, right? I mean, this is ultimately how we learn.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You can tell them that the fire's hot, don't touch it. They got to experience it.
Every child touches it.
They got to experience it for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like, don't do that. You're going to get submitted. No, go and experience it for yourself.
So what do you do as an instructor in those cases? Like you guide them, but if you see them walking into it, they walk into the fire, they walk into the submission. Do you let them be, or do you don't?
Me personally, I'd say, I told you so.
Yeah, you get an instructor of the year award here.
I think I mean, you advise them, you can guide them, but when they fall into the trap or they make the mistake and they get caught, and it's they gotta go through it. They gotta learn from it. And then like we can see, like, okay, here are the signs leading up to what happened, where you were going, and how can you learn from that?
You know what else was open-minded about Gabriel? The fact that he talked about his competitions, particularly watching his matches and really dissecting them and analyzing them, and then drawing conclusions from them, and being extremely open-minded about feedback that he gets from other people. I feel like that feedback often is difficult for us in general as humans. Like, even being an instructor and giving feedback to students, sometimes I feel like the feedback is not wanted. Do you ever find yourself in that spot?
Yeah. And so now that we're talking about that, that's another thing that stuck out is when he was talking about how he was trying to learn English, and he wanted feedback from the students.
Yeah.
So imagine your instructor, like a Brazilian, the black belt up there instructing, and he's got his broken English. Your first time, you're new on the mats, and you're going to tell him, hey, you're saying this wrong. Like, I mean, most students would not do that. Most students will just shut up. And then later on in the locker room, what the hell was he trying to say?
Well, there's layers behind this, right? There's like this black belt layer, which means a lot of students who come onto the mat, they don't want to question the black belt because he's ultimately the one who's supposed to know everything, right? Yeah. Right? And then there's this language barrier behind all of this in his case, right? So like, how do you get through this? And then he's countering all of this in the opposite direction, saying like, no, correct me, tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm learning too.
So I that to me, that he comes across as a guy who's really open to criticism and feedback, right? Whether it be in him learning a language, him watching his own tapes, his own fight footage, and then asking for feedback and what he could do better, stuff like that. Again, it goes back to that martial art mentality. He's probably the type of guy that can learn from anybody, whether it be a white belt, blue belt, whatever. The purple belt who taught him, I need to learn heel hooks, right? Yeah. Like, he can learn from anybody. That's what I'm assuming. That's what he comes across.
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it's great.
So how come we are so apprehensive about feedback that we're getting, just in general? Oftentimes we even take this as a even offensive thing. Like, what are you telling me? I'm doing things wrong.
I think that's when I think that's ego, right? I think people are carrying their egos around, and they carry themselves on a pedestal when they shouldn't. They shouldn't be carrying themselves on such a high pedestal. We all make mistakes. We're all learning together. Again, I think I said this before. We can learn from anybody, right? And we can little details here and there. Like, oh, this guy does it one way, this guy does it another way. Like, I don't know. I think it's just having that martial art mentality where you are a student first, and you're able to learn from anybody.
Is that the way to go?
I think so. I think, don't get me wrong. I think for high level competition, like what he does, you do need to have an ego, right? You do need to think you're best. You do need to think that you have your skills are unmatched. I think that's healthy, right? That confidence that you need. But I think we need to separate the competition from the training room. And I think when you're in the training room, you got to be receptive to learning from anybody.
I recently actually listened to a interview with Marcelo. It was, I don't even know what it was, but I was listening to it, and he talked about confidence. No.
It was when we were talking about Gordon Ryan?
No, he was talking about confidence versus ego.
Oh, okay.
And he talked about the fact of he has never gone into a match without high confidence. Like he knew before the matches, before he stepped in on the mat, he knew that he is the best of the best of the best. He knew that he will deliver at the best abilities of his. But he said he never thought that he could beat the other guy. That was to be determined. But the fact that he never questioned himself going into these matches, he never questions his abilities to what he's able or capable of doing. And I think sometimes there's this gray area of this arrogant, cocky approach versus being confident in your own abilities. And sometimes that's very visible. Have you noticed that with students and just watching jiu-jitsu in general?
Yeah, of course. I think so. I think ultimately what you want is you want to have confidence in your skill set. And if we go back to the old saying, like the battle's against yourself, right? Can you be better than what you were before? Can you live up? Can you do what you know you're capable of? Can you perform your best? And everything else will play out, right? I'm not out there trying to beat my opponent. I'm out there trying to perform the best that I know I can. And if I'm able to do that, the win will come.
Yeah, these are all little golden nuggets that I think we can learn from, and today's episode definitely had plenty of them. So, once again, listen, thanks for filling in the seat of Gary's.
Oh, I kept it warm.
I don't know. Should we bring him back, or you want to just stay here full time?
Man, how many of these do you guys do a week?
We just one. This is just one episode a week. What are you talking about?
Maybe we can kick Gary the curb.
Is that what you're thinking? It's officially out there now.
He can do all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I think that comes as a package. I think he's gonna gladly give up the production side if you take that seat. Anyway, on a serious note, thanks for hanging out and thanks for being here today. It was a good one.
Awesome.
All right, later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.